Okay. Were you already recording? Okay. Sorry. Today's a tough day. But I wanted to make a video, kind of explain what's going on to those of you who may not know. About mid-April, I was in bed and I felt this little twinge of pain on my right side. And I got to feeling around and I felt a lump. And I thought, oh, that's not good. So the next day I called my doctor and made an appointment. And I got in to see him probably close to a week, little less than a week. He did an exam, asked me when I'd had my last mammogram, which I'd always been faithful at doing until 2015, and then I stopped being faithful at it. Mine had always come back negative. I figured I was old enough, I probably didn't need it anymore. I didn't know that much about cancer. It isn't something that had touched my family a lot, so at least not where I was in direct contact with it. And my doctor tried to encourage me and say it's probably nothing, blah, blah, blah. So we ordered a mammogram, and I had the mammogram. I got this little book, by the way, from Ironwood Women's Center. That's where I was sent to when it's all said and done. I got all this paperwork that goes along with it to try to tell me about what's going on. I got reports in here and labs and everything. But on the 16th, I got in to see my doctor, and a week later, I was in to the lab where they do mammograms and ultrasounds, and they did an ultrasound. It's supposed to be a diagnostic ultrasound. I guess they take a closer look at certain things when they do that. I don't know. I was under that impression. They didn't even ask me to get dressed. They just said, sit here, we'll come back in a minute, we're probably going to do an ultrasound. Well, I didn't realize that it was very visible on the screen that I definitely had a mass. And so they took me into the ultrasound, and I was there altogether 3 hours. And they looked and searched. They searched lymph nodes. They searched the left side. Then the tech went out and came back with a doctor, a surgeon, and she did more ultrasounds, and I could clearly see on the screen there was a lump that actually looked like 2. And to me, they looked like they were a decent size, but, you know, I'm not a doctor. And so she immediately said I needed a biopsy. So I went in a little bit less than 2 weeks and had the biopsy done. And they actually did 2, we know now to be 1 cancer growth, but they took a biopsy from 2 different spots, thinking it was 2. And very next day, the doctor called me and said, yeah, it's cancer. So they sent off blood work and samples of the biopsy. And by the way, I hate being on camera. I'm terrible at this. I never like the way I look or the way I sound, and so I'm trying to like figure out where I'm to be looking, and I know I need to look right there, but it kind of drives me crazy because it's not a person. So anyway, I digress. The labs came back that it was what they call triple negative and was what they call grade 3. And if you don't know what triple negative is, it's where the normal receptors that I guess encourage it to grow, what they call a HER2 and progesterone and estrogen receptors, I don't have. If you have any of those three, it's better, and you have better odds because they have actually specific medications and chemo treatments that they can specifically target, with hormones and stuff like that, those particular receptors. I don't have any of those. So it's kind of a crapshoot. They don't really know which chemicals to use for it, so they kind of throw some of their strongest ones at it. Grade 3, because you can be grade 1, 2, or 3, is like the worst of all the grades because that means it's rapidly reproducing cells. So in less than a month from that, I am in a surgeon's office, and we're talking about removing lumps. And
don't mention any surgeons' names.
I wasn't going to.
Okay.
And funny thing is, we're sitting in there and waiting for the doctor, and Paul decides to make a video, which we'll post on here, of us waiting for the doctor. And we got kind of silly, and it was kind of a fun moment to kind of take some of this pressure and stress off, because when the doctor did come in and start reading the pathology report, I'd already read a copy. My copy wasn't quite as clear as hers. And she painted kind of a bleak picture. And I honestly got sick to my stomach. I felt like I was going to throw up just hearing the news. I started thinking about my kids, my grandkids, and all I could hear was rapidly growing and the worst you can get. Sorry, I don't mean to get emotional, but that is kind of an emotional thing, and it's a very personal thing. Don't let any doctors try to tell you otherwise, because it is. Everybody's journey is different. Anyway, they wanted to immediately order a PET scan and an MRI that would specifically really look closer than an ultrasound or a mammogram can at the breast and the lymph node area. So I had that, not this last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. I think it was the 5th, something like that. And so far, it hasn't spread to the lymph nodes or anywhere else, for that matter, as far as they can tell. What shows up on the screen is that it hasn't spread, that it's isolated, but it's also larger than they thought. So no chance they'll do surgery and take the, I was going to say stupid thing, out and then consider other treatments. No, they want to just slam me with chemotherapy right off the bat. I don't know how much any of you know about chemotherapy, but Paul and I have been doing a lot of research since this started. And not just listening to, people's testimonies and stuff, but actually listening to doctors, researchers, other clinics that are fighting cancer too. Some alternative clinics that do a combination of traditional and alternative, or just straight out alternative. So we've been listening to a lot of medical people. And this last visit, last Wednesday, the doctor was saying she wants to put a port in for the delivery system of the chemotherapy, which the oncologist says will burn your veins and will give you heart disease later on and possibly lung disease later on. It'll cause nerve damage to all your peripheral nerves. Could possibly cause you to go blind. And a few other things I don't even remember. By then I quit listening. I was just like, wow, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. since we got the diagnosis and we started doing research, we've started eating differently. I pretty much mostly vegan. Unless somebody invites us out to a meal or to their house, I haven't really been eating meat. Been mostly eating, vegetables and occasionally fruit. Now I've learned that's a no. Don't be eating fruit because cancerous glucose loves the glucose that fruits and starches provide. Matter of fact, the radioactive stuff they put in your veins before you have the PET scan is radioactive glucose. And that's so that the cancer cells will all be really, really active because they're hungry and they'll go after it, and that's how they see it. What does that tell you? Sugar's not good. Ditch the tech and stay away from sugar. You'll understand that comment when you see the other video.
So this video right now, love, is over 11 minutes.
That's fine.
Do you want to keep going or you want
Yes.
to take a break?
No, I'm going to finish.
Okay.
Where was I?
You said ditch the tech.
Before that.
Oh, the glucose.
Oh, the glucose.
Yeah.
So we've been eating a lot better, and we've been doing intermittent fasting, stuff like that to try to basically starve out the cancer. And every time they talk to me about chemotherapy, and by the way, they've scheduled me for chemotherapy next week. I don't even have a port yet. So they're just going to try to burn my veins right off the bat. Oh, it's not funny. I got to laugh or I'm just going to cry. So anyway, I'm trying to hurry up, but this is really hard for me to say all this. I have actually felt and actually never even said anything till just the other day when we were leaving the doctor's office. Every time I go to the doctor's office, I am like, I feel pressured. I feel full of fear. Even though in my heart of hearts, I know I don't want to do what they're saying. Chemo, radiation. I'm kind of iffy on half and half on the surgery, but chemo and radiation, no, I just don't want that. And so when we left, I told my husband, I said, I have felt from the beginning when they first started talking about chemo that it will kill me. I have a very sensitive system. I'm very sensitive to medications of any kind. I can't use morphines and codeines and all that kind of stuff. Which morphine is their favorite drug of choice when you get toward the end of your life and you're fighting cancer. Don't know how that would go. But anyway, I finally shared that I felt like chemo would kill me. And yet I was considering it for a moment because of the fear. I mean, the doctor literally said when we wanted to go get a second opinion and talk to a doctor that might do alternative treatments, well, those don't work. Homeopathic stuff never works, and the cancer might not have spread yet, but in another month it could be everywhere and you could die. So it's like, really? I mean, he took it personally that we didn't want to jump right into chemotherapy and wanted another opinion. And that's unfortunate because I told him, I said, dude, this isn't about you. It's not about you. It's about me and Paul, since Paul's going through this journey with me. And so, anyway, the people we have talked to about alternative treatments, the prices vary, but they're in the tens of thousands, and insurance doesn't cover it. So, along with journaling my journey, we're going to be doing some crowdfunding, and I guess we'll post something on this site to let you know where you can go for that if you choose. I'm certainly not trying to pull on anybody's heartstrings to say you got to give to our cause so I don't die from cancer. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share with the people that aren't near me, that do care about me, what's going on, and hoping that some people will feel the desire to bless us so that we can try something else. So anyway, watch the other video. It's funny.